Hey guys, hello again to another video. Um, I'm coming at you with a bit of a different type of video today. Um, One I came up with spur of the moment, and I haven't got any notes for it. I haven't really thought this through apart from some guidelines, so it'll be more of a list type of video. And it's to do, if you've probably seen the title by now, it's to do with your inner child, maybe childhood in general, my history, and I'm going to refer to a case study, which is the Reneé Rapp video she did where she taught a bunch of kids her song, Leave Me Alone, Bitch, I Wanna Have Fun. That's the one. And that was the kind of thing that spurred this whole video idea, this whole kind of thought train. And the interesting thing about that video was that during it, as it went on, I felt more like myself in a while. Like, and when I say that myself, I mean like my old self, like when I was a kid, like 9 to 11. That really warm feeling, that really warm feeling. It brought me back to that sense of play, that sense of stubbornness, a little bit of like headstrongness in both like kind of a good and not so good way. It brought back kind of what it felt like to be with a bunch of classmates who were full of energy, full of life. You weren't as concerned about judgment, perception from other people, although in my case I feel like I kind of got a lot earlier because when I was growing up, from several kind of sources, like people in my life, I got a lot of criticism and a lot of like deflation, and I felt really down earlier than I probably should have, and I had to vow to myself to kind of keep my head on high. When you start evolving into your teen years, you start to rush into things like you really want to distance yourself from childhood. You want to grow up too fast. For me, that was like somewhat the case, but also I found it kind of a bit of an isolating, alienating experience as well. And because I didn't really want facial hair, I didn't really want my voice to drop, I didn't really want muscles, I didn't really want all that stuff. And, later in life, I discovered why that was, because at the time I felt so indifferent from it, and I didn't understand why I was so kind of beside myself. But then I realized, it's literally just I am not who I thought I was, and I'm not comfortable in that boat, and the only thing I really wanted was height, and I didn't get that. That's the one thing that whoever's up above there reserved for me. So thank you. I'm like between 5'7" and 5'9", somewhere in that range. So it's a nice little height. I'm like the most dainty short person that's technically not like 5'2", 5'3". I'm short in spirit, but by watching this video, it got me to think about what are the changes that happen. Why do we get so detached from that that kind of confidence, that non-judgmental lens, that bright-eyed, pure heart? Why do we get distance from that, and why does it take so long once you're an adult, and if you take the steps to even realize that's what's happened? Why does that take so long? Why does it take so long to get rid of the muck and dust off everything? Why does it take so long? And I don't know if I have definitive answers for these questions. I could say it's to do with what the world expects of us, what the system expects of us, what school expects of us, what all these things expect of us, and how we're supposed to grow up so quickly. And they tell you not to grow up too quickly, and they tell you to enjoy it while it lasts. But the world is not really set up for that, is it? The world is set up for you to be constantly on the go. The world is set up to be constantly moving, and you don't really have much of a say about that. You can choose to slow it down for yourself, but often this is at the detriment of your financial benefit. Like you don't earn as much money if you do stuff for you more and work less. And not everyone gets to work jobs that they're happy in and that is a reflection of what they want to do. They do it because, I have to make ends meet somehow, so fucking working in a 9-to-5 job, that's how I'm going to do it. Pardon my French. I was supposed to say pardon my French before, but I make my own rules. Yeah, and being a kid, or having an inner child and nurturing your inner child, healing your inner child, it's kind of at the bottom of the list of things that you are expected to do or given space for, more accurately, actually. You're not given space to do that. And that's the problem. And it takes a lot of years of self-realization, therapy, help from people who are sensitive to the subject matter to realize that, to get that back. And I think I have been getting that back ever so slowly. And I realized that my childhood self and the self I am now are one and the same. And it's true, you have different versions of yourself. You have these versions that, while all you, will act differently because of your experience or your maturation or what you know, what your resources are at that time. And I have all that. I have all that because, by the time you watch this, I'll be 26. I'll be 26 by the time you watch this. And I've only felt in the last 2 years now that because they say 25 is when your brain's more kind of developed. And I don't think it stops changing and developing, but that is definitely it seems like you're out of the tutorial stage. You're in the kind of the normal standard, I suppose. But it was only when I got to that where I started to really get in touch with my inner child again, to say hello to her once more. And it's a beautiful thing, I have to tell you. It's an extremely beautiful thing. It's something that I treasure. It's something that makes me emotional. It makes me happy. That girl wasn't lost. And perhaps before I got caught up in the politics of manhood, before I got caught up in what I was supposed to be, what I was supposed to follow, and how I never felt really a part of it, because to me, manhood was like watching a bunch of people play soccer in a force field, and I couldn't penetrate the force field. I could only look from the outside and copy them. Sure, I was around them and copying them, but I was not in it. And that's what it felt like. And by the time I was 12, 13, things were starting to change. Things were starting to gear up in that way. And about when I was 9 to 11 is probably whether consciously or not, when I was just a girl and nothing else. When I was unbound by any conception of gender binary, when I was unbound by any concept. And, I had the toys that were made for boys, sure. I had all this stuff, but it's not like I really mulled over it a lot about, does that make me less of a man? Does that make me more of a man? Does that make me more of a girl for liking these? It was less about that. And by the time you get to puberty and the high school kind of philosophy, if you will, or the high school kind of attitude. You start to get lost in performance and building yourself up to standards that are set for you. And I'm telling you now, if somehow you are in high school or you're past high school and you feel like those are ingrained in you, it doesn't have to be that way. It really doesn't. You can do whatever you want, whether you are a man, woman, and be anything. You can do it. You can be who you want. If you want to be feminine, be feminine. If you want to be masculine, be masculine. If you don't want to be either of these things, be them. Respect your inner child. Respect what they would want. Respect that. I guess that Reneé Rapp video is a case in point for why not just children are important, but why the child in us is important. You see Reneé like kind of leading the class and leading them in a song, and they're so inquisitive, but yet slightly skeptical. But all their questions, all that they're saying is like just so pure-hearted and based on curiosity. It's based on wanting to know, and then by the end of it, you see how much they warm to her. And through this action, Reneé too becomes a child, because I believe that in order to effectively communicate with children, you have to talk like a child a little bit. You have to maintain yourself as an adult while kind of talking to them on their terms. And that's a real hard thing to let in and to realize and to know how to implement. Because you're away from it for so long, it's like you have some blackout about who are kids, what are kids, how do I access that again? All these years happened and now I'm away from it. How do I access it again? And that's how you talk to kids. Because I work at a library and I have a few shifts a week. And one of them is dealing with, we have a slide in the library. We have this slide where you have a monitor, which is me, and I supervise the kids as they go whee down the slide. And it's so much fun for them. And for me in turn, because I have these little conversations with them and I find out what they're all about. And one kid came in as Elsa from Frozen. And it was so precious. And I was like, "Oh, sweetie, I love your outfit." And she was like, "I was at a little costume thing, and it's stuff like that I live for. Stuff like seeing what they're passionate about and acknowledging their passions on their level." And I'm not sure if it was the same kid. It might have been, but she was talking about how she made a mistake and how she felt bad about it. And I said, "Look, adults make mistakes. Things happen. We're not perfect, so neither should you be. We're all learning, and it doesn't make you a worse person for it, because mistakes are a part of kind of the game, right? Mistakes are a part of the game." And I felt like she genuinely heard me when I said that. She genuinely heard me, and I felt like when she heard me, I was also hearing myself, and I was taking that on board along with her. Even for myself, that's something I have to learn. And I'm sure that she will change as a person, and maybe she'll find that hard to remember or hard to kind of internalize, because that's a hard lesson to internalize. I find it a hard lesson to internalize. But you never know. You never know with kids and who they grow into. You never know what sticks with them. And that's why we need to be saying positive things to kids. We need to be saying positive things to ourselves. We need to kind of uplift our lives with childlike whimsy and wonder and beauty. That's just what I believe, I think. We need to uplift ourselves to connect and to love and to live in this world. We can still be adults. We can still work in whatever profession we want to, or not. You can still be whatever you want to be, but you remember who you were when you were created on this earth, and who you were in grade school, primary school. you remember who you were and you keep that inside of you. You know, after that Reneé Rapp video, you know, at the end, when they make the song, and it's like, they make the song into an anthem about a kid who doesn't want to do like schoolwork and just wants to party and have fun, which I think is a relatable message for kids, because how many times do they just want to like go home and play their Xbox, or go home and like watch Bluey or whatever is on at that time, you know. And it was interesting to me because that triggered something in me, that warmness that I felt as a kid of things meant for kids, that spoke to me in that level. And it was like I was resonating it through that life, through that lens. You know, I think a song like that would bring kids together in a very funny, lighthearted way. It's nothing too like introspective or deep, but that's not the beauty of it. The beauty of it is that it unites kids in what is instinctual to them and what they think about like quite often. Unites them through that from. And that feeling was so powerful that my 2 dolls in my room, because I usually have them on display, and sometimes, you know, I'll talk to my dolls, because, you know, maybe it's because I saw Toy Story at a young age, but I do think like things, you know, there's a sentience there. There's a kind of like, you know, they're expansions on yourself. They're extensions of you. So you treat them like how you treat yourself, and it's affirming for you, because you go, look, I know they're not alive, but treating them like that keeps you alive, because it gets you out of yourself, and it helps you understand yourself, because you're talking through yourself in another lens. And I found that when that video was over, I had like a bit of a conversation to them, because that's where it led me. It was like this kind of like impulsive drive, and I'm not usually that impulsive with it. You know, I usually just have them on display, maybe say a few things to them, like, hi guys, you know, like, how's your day? Good. You know, just very light stuff, nothing too like intense. But that time it was like, oh, I'm actually like having a conversation with them. And it felt freeing and liberating, because, you know, how long has it been since I've given my permission to do that? How long has it been since I've stopped telling myself, oh, that's weird, you're an adult, don't do that, you're not supposed to. You're not supposed to do that. You're an adult. Shut up. Go to work. Go do this. Be responsible. You know, how long has it been since that? And that's liberating. Letting yourself free. Just doing what you want to do. How long has it been since, you know, I've done that. You've done that. You know, I think if you're a healthy person, you would get your dose of that. You would get your healthy dose of that. You would find any reason or any moment to do that. And you have obligations. Of course you do. You have stuff to do, but you got to set a bit of time for yourself. You got to set a bit of time for yourself. I think that the dolls, both my dolls in my room and just the dolls in general, like, protect the dolls. Of course. But like, the dolls are my friends, and I love them with all my heart. And it feels as pure as love can be. It feels as pure as the love I share with my friends. And if I'm in a relationship, it feels as pure as that. It's a different kind of love, but it's based in the same purity and sanctity and tenderness. And you should show love, and you should show kindness. If you can show love and kindness to your dolls, you can show love and kindness to anyone. And giving myself that privilege has been such an affirming thing, a life-affirming thing. At the end of the day, I think that being a kid doesn't have to end at 12 or 13 or 18. Because, you know, you stop being a teen around 18, 19, right? It doesn't have to stop there. You can keep it in your heart. And I implore you, whoever you are, and it's very important for people who are teens, people who are adults, young adults, like, get in touch with your inner kid before you leave it for too long, because I don't think it's ever too late, but the longer you leave it, the harder it becomes. And that was the hardest thing for me, was like admitting it was there, and through the process of mentally changing, like maturing, coming into myself later in my 20s. And by the way, I still got so much time to brew to, 30-year-old Emma might have a field day with this. But I don't really cater to what my perspective will be later down the track. It is now. What I believe is now. It's relevant, and I feel it. And that's all you really need about anything. But yeah, just keep tabs on it. Be conscious. Be diligent. Because our lives can be transient. They are so long, but they are transient. And that's been my experience. My perception of it is life that is long and short in equal breaths. And you'll never know when you get to hold her, when you get to hold your little kid, your little self. You'll never know. So do it tight. Be like Reneé Rapp. Go and, if you want to work with kids, or you have a relative that has kids, or just anything that involves kids, please, I implore you to explore those avenues, because it keeps you young, it keeps you in tune, it keeps you grounded. For me, it keeps me grounded to talk to kids and see what they're going through. And not all kids are nice. Some of them might even ask inflammatory questions or say hurtful things. But kids, they don't mean it. They have no filter. They are a product of their parents. Often it's not them saying it, it's something else saying it. But it doesn't change the fact it's hurtful. It doesn't change the fact that it's not a good thing to do. But you just got to keep that in mind with kids. And I think at the end of the day, they mean so well. And would I ever consider having kids in my life? At this point, I can't say a definite answer. Maybe someday, but it is not that day today. But I got to learn how to take care of myself. I got to build myself up before building someone else, and that's the thing. But I want to still be around kids, and I do that through the library. And, I see them laugh, I see them smile, I crack jokes with them. I do my best. Sometimes it doesn't work. Sometimes I'm like, oh, I'm so awkward, or this kid doesn't think I'm witty at all. And that's often me projecting my own anxiety, my own kind of insecurities. Because that's how I felt when I was a kid, especially when from probably 10, 11 onwards, is that it was a mix of kind of this joy and this warmness that felt like, I don't know, playing a Sonic game, or listening to a very sunny reggae song. I guess that's the best comparison I can do to how it feels. Some Eurodance from the 90s. The last video I made was about how to explore your gender expression through art, and I think that also relates to being a kid. Watch shows, listen to children's music. Don't let anyone tell you you passed your expiration date with that. Do what makes you happy. I believe there's a show called Amy's Dream House on Nebula, and I believe there's some episodes on this platform, YouTube, that you can watch that is a kid show for adults, and it's done in that kind of Blue's Clues style. I would recommend that if you want something adult but kid-like, specifically. So that's a good one, but please just don't limit yourself to exploring. I call my child self Emmy, and it's not a name I had for myself at the time, but in retrospect, it's what her name was. And she that girl is still with me. You know, she comes out when I talk like this, like a little extra high than I usually do. You know, and, you know, she's in me somewhere, and she shares moments with me. She had her own part in my brain for the longest time, and the door was locked. But now that I'm older and mature and with a combination of like HRT, she's getting more stuff to do. The door's open. She's wandering around. You know, she's not the driver, but she's a very important assistant, very important director in my life. And that's how forever I want to keep it. I love you, Emmy. And love your inner child. Love your inner child. Always keep them close. In this world, in all this transaction and bureaucracy, in all these planes flying over my head that I'm sure you've heard quite a few times. The one thing that is grounded in you, one thing that is grounded is you, is your inner child. They might try to take away your freedoms, your rights, your ideas. They might try to shun you, but they can't take away your inner kid. They can't take away you. And that's important to remember. Thanks for watching. I always wanted to make a video like this, and I hope I did it justice. I hope all of these complex feelings got out somehow. You know, I wasn't planning on doing this right now, but the time just felt right. You know, at my current age, I appreciate childhood more because I've gone so far away from it and matured to a point where I understand what it's all about now. And you get the best of both worlds, and it's a really beautiful cohabitational relationship. I hope you can find that too. See you guys in the next one. Okay. Bye.